My fellow Romanians, we have breaking news from Mamaia, Nuba actually. Very, very important news about artificial intelligence. This is session number 13 în română, just to be sure, of Waves of Artificial Intelligence. My name is Adrian Dragomir, I'm the founder of Termene.ro, and today we start a 3-day sessions with Dave Ebbelaar from Netherlands. Thank you, Dave, for being here.
Glad to be here.
Dave arrived last night with a special aircraft that we designed specially for him with artificial intelligence. We didn't invent yet the teleportation, but we are sure that this amazing technology will do this for us.
We're almost there.
Until then, he had to travel physically. He's not a hologram. He's here. He's very much alive and talking. Okay, so we start a 3-day session about artificial intelligence, but we go deep into technical stuff. This is going to be the 3 sessions with large language models, and we are going to talk about implementing, coding, about LangChain, which is an amazing tool that we didn't cover so far. And finally, there's going to be 3 sessions where I'm not going to do the talking a lot. So Dave, welcome. How are you? How do you like Romania so far?
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having me. So first impressions, really good. So I arrived yesterday. It was a 3-hour flight, but then another 3-hour drive to get there from Bucharest. And so far, Mamaia, a place where we're currently at, looks amazing. Weather's good, much better than when it's currently in the Netherlands. So that is all good. It had been raining for like past months in the Netherlands. Yeah, past like month, like all of July was pretty bad. June was okay, but now it's like good to have a trip over here.
Next year,
and of course
you can come next year and spend like the entire summer here. It's gonna
maybe
be
who knows if you really like it, then maybe this will be our new holiday destination.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a very, very nice place, and we bring artificial intelligence here. So people are talking about. People are coming here live every day. So it's gonna be a good place to spend time for people that want to learn more, talk more about this technology. We are not actually here. Our base is in Ploiești and Bucharest, which is a city near Bucharest. Yeah. But we decided to come here because we thought, okay, where do people go when this summer? They're gonna be in Mamaia. They want to enjoy the sun and spend some free time. I say, let's go after them. Let's not leave them alone. Let's talk about this technology, because I don't know how it's in Netherlands, but in Romania, my impression is that people are not talking enough about this. They don't understand what's going on, and for sure they don't see what's coming. Okay. And from my point of view, it's not only waves of AI, it's a real bloody tsunami that's gonna hit us really, really soon. Yeah. So far we had like 12 sessions with technical people, with entrepreneurs, with people that are leaders in Romania when it comes to business. And now with you, I want to go really, really deep. Okay. As technical as possible. Perfect. And so you have the mic, and enjoy.
Perfect. Let's do it. And I can definitely relate to what you're saying about you mentioning people here in Romania not talking enough about it. And I do feel like in the Netherlands, at least from what I see, there is a lot of talking about it, but mainly from the perspective of ChatGPT. You know, like what I currently see. There's a big hype with ChatGPT and all, and people think that is AI. And it is AI, but not... it's just a very small portion. And I really also believe, like from a business perspective, people feel like, hey, if we want to use AI within our company, then we should learn how to use ChatGPT and how our employees can get creative with ChatGPT. But that only like covers the very basics, because of course it's about much more. It's about the technology and the models underlying, for example, OpenAI's ChatGPT, and you also have other models. And that's really what I wanted to dive into over the course of these next 3 days, really showing how you can build applications, business applications around these large language models that power OpenAI, ChatGPTs.
Small question, from what you see so far, and you are going to tell us a little about you and your expertise and what you're doing, but so far from what you see, do people talk a lot about and implement very little? What's the balance here? Okay, it's a big hype with ChatGPT and so on, but is this hype translated into real implementation in companies? I don't know, Netherlands or worldwide, from your point of view? How is this race going on right now?
So I really believe we're still really at the beginning of this. So right now, there's a lot of talking, and there's definitely some implementation, but the thing kind of is, it's while AI is a field that has been here since like the 1950s already, this sudden rise of large language models that are now so powerful all of a sudden, I think like the last year, half a year or so, we've really seen that increase. And companies, people really have to learn new skills to actually create applications around it, because it's all new. Like nobody studied this in university, nobody had a proper training for that, and now all of a sudden you have frameworks like LangChain popping up that we will be diving into this session and also over the next days. And it's completely new, so I feel like you really have to like pivot quickly, also as a company, but also as a professional in the field, if you want to stay relevant within this field. And so, coming back to your question, is there already like a lot of application? I think not so much. I think a lot of people know, okay, we can use ChatGPT, that's how you want to use it, but actually building applications with it, I think what behind the scenes, a lot of like the big tech companies are working like really hard on this. You see a lot of applications that now all of a sudden have an AI feature, like you can do summarization. I think Notion, I don't know if you know Notion, the software.
We use Notion a lot.
Okay, perfect. I think those were one of the early adopters of putting it into their software, and I think in a really clever way, like hitting.
And they use Claude. They didn't use ChatGPT. They're using Claude by Anthropic as a large language model.
That's interesting.
So they use from the beginning. They use Claude, which version 1 of Claude wasn't that compared to GPT. It was really far behind. But now we tested Claude Anthropic a lot here in comparison with ChatGPT. It's absolutely amazing.
Okay. Do you think it's already better than OpenAI, or?
The main reason that we tested here was due to context. Claude gets 100K tokens.
100K, right?
That's the main difference. It's not better. In some areas, GPT-4 is still better for abstractization and logic and so on. But when you want to do like this podcast, very, very early when we started the sessions, we said, okay, we have a problem now. Because we started this entire project really, really fast. We didn't prepare for this like a year ago because we had no idea we're going to do this.
Exactly.
So this started like 3 weeks before we started everything here, so a lot of chaos. And we said, it doesn't matter, we are going to go there, we're going to adapt every day. So after we arrived here, we said, okay, we have like 2-hour session of podcast. Now, usually we would do time coding and transcriptions with people, employees, and so on, but the volume was really, really higher than usual, and then you had 2 hours of video every day. So that brought up an issue to us. So we say, okay, let's use artificial intelligence. So we transcribe everything using Happy Scribe. In the beginning, now we actually use Whisper with local on our servers, and then we had like 2 hours of text. ChatGPT cannot process that much tokens. So we use Anthropic. Just copy paste into Anthropic, and they say summarize. Identify the speakers, summarize, get the key points, get the bullet points, make a small summarization for each bullet point, and then write an email for our audience. So we have an email ready every day using transcriptions and ChatGPT and Anthropic.
Really interesting. That's definitely something I'm going to have to look into, that because as of right now, I've really limited myself and my services on OpenAI. But I did saw the release, the announcement of the 100K tokens, which that is something we can also get into. But that is currently one of the big bottlenecks of creating applications with large language models. You run into these tokenization issues, and for that you have to be creative and do all kinds of tricks to make it work. And that's also, I think, a good indication of like how early we are. Like this still, it's kind of like this a bottleneck where in like a few years, it's like, oh, you know, in the beginning, yeah, you can only use like 10K tokens,
and now you can use 1 million.
It's just unlimited, you know,
so
like
unlimited,
yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, very interesting to hear that you have been looking into cloud.
Another bottleneck that I'm curious how you see this, and then I really need to let you present yourself,
sure.
Is this chunking of text, like this issue, this limitation of context tokens. Okay, so like 6 months ago, there were only 4K on GPT-4.
Yeah.
That's the initial context, which was a problem because you had to split the text and so on.
Yeah.
And now looking behind, I'm like, oh my God, I spent so many days, maybe weeks, trying to solve this problem, watching your videos, watching a lot of YouTube videos, understanding, searching. I myself did some Python code, and then 6 months later, I have Anthropic with 100K tokens, and all my weeks were gone. I mean, I spent so much time there. So my question is this: where do I see the line? How do I prepare myself so that I don't spend time working on workarounds, on implementations of things that in like 2 weeks are going to be solved by these big players?
Yeah. Good question.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. But I don't think there's really an answer to that because we don't really know what all these companies are building in the background. And of course, we can make some predictions and some forecasts on what is happening. But another great example for this, which we will also get into probably tomorrow or the day after, but is the notion of function calling with large language models. Something we will get into, but. As you know, these large language models, they produce text. They give you send an input and you get an answer back. But that is very convenient when text is the final output that you want. For example, for a summarization or to answer a question. But what you're now also seeing is where you start to create automations with these large language models, where they really serve like on the back end or for intermediate steps, and where the large language models have to interact with APIs, for example, already have to call functions. And for that, you want structured JSON output.
Exactly.
And LangChain, for example, in the beginning already had some methods and some functions where you could prompt engineer your chain of basically so that it would output JSON values, so that you could plug it into a function. So this is something they built out. They experimented with that, and it worked okay. But these large language models are non-deterministic. So depending on the user input. And the context, you might get slightly different outcomes every time you run or interact with a large language.
Can you explain non-deterministic?
So non-deterministic. So deterministic would mean every time you send a query or every time you try to answer a question, you get the same result back. This is very straightforward. This
non-generative.
Is kind of like that. So it's predictable, deterministic. And non-deterministic means there is a bit of variability in there, and you could alter this with the notion of the temperature. I don't know if you're familiar with the temperature. You can put it to 0, which is the lowest, which almost makes it deterministic. But then you run into the issue where, on the other hand, you have users interacting with these systems, and everyone interacts with these systems in a different way. So somebody might ask a question this way, and someone else might ask a question another way. And depending on that, you might get a different outcome. So that is one of the things that LangChain implemented already. And then OpenAI came with this notion of function calling. So that is an example of, first we had to do all of the chunking, and which there are still some very good use cases for chunking, even if you can put in the 100K tokens. That is something we can get into. So since everything is so new, we're constantly adapting and evolving, and I guess for professionals in the field and in companies, it's kind of like hard. Where do you put your focus and attention on? Because you might be diving into one library, trying to understand all of it, and then next week there might be a new framework for that, or a new application where it's just like, okay, now you can do this as a service. So I think that's due to the novelty of everything that's going on, that's just something we have to deal with. If you want to be early, you got to take some risk and maybe try and learn some things that might
Still, it's amazing. I mean, the fact that GPT, I think it's like 3 weeks ago they launched functions, or 1 month ago. It was bloody amazing, man. And I'm using Zapier, when I started defining function, and then for each function it's asking me, give me an example how this should look like. Oh my God.
That's very, very clever. Like how that works.
Okay, Dave, the mic is yours.
Sure. So let's see. So I've prepared some materials for today's sessions, and the general topic, like it says here on the screen, is like building apps with large language models. So we really start kind of like with the fundamentals, the low-level architecture of the kind of like components you need in order to create these applications. And then we get to a little more high level. Okay, so what would that look like if you put it into a whole application? What are all the building blocks that you need to communicate with each other, just to get everyone kind of like on the same page of how this works? And then we'll get into LangChain, which is a framework developed for basically the orchestration around all of this. So all of the components and building blocks that I will first explain, LangChain makes it really convenient, really efficient to work with that. And then I'll get a little bit into data privacy and security for large language models apps, because I know also from the clients that I work with, that's usually one of the first concerns if you talk about, okay, we want to use company data with these apps. So I'll address how we are currently addressing that issue, how we are working with that. So I think that would be nice also for everyone watching and maybe wanting to get into this, but maybe has this idea, okay, I don't want to share my data with OpenAI.
Is this an European concern, or is it like basically everywhere? Because in Europe you have GDPR and it's a...
Yeah, so I think for Europe you have GDPR specifically, but I think this is relevant for all companies, because even if it's not like GDPR data or whatever, you might have sensitive information, just IP, intellectual, that you do not want to share. So that is something we can get into. Mm-hmm. And then to conclude, I will also give a demo of LangChain, really like show some hands-on coding, and I will explain how all of that works, but really show you, okay, so these are all the building blocks, this is LangChain and what it can do, and then this is how it will work, and then we'll kind of like build from there in like the next sessions where, okay, we now understand the general framework, and now let's actually build some applications with that. Amazing. So with that out of the way, quick introduction about myself, what I do in the company that I run. So my name is Dave Ebbelaar. I'm from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, well actually close to Amsterdam, but probably nobody will understand what it is. So Amsterdam, everybody knows. So I have a bachelor's and master's degree in artificial intelligence. So started studying that in 2013. So 10 years ago, and back then it was much more focused on just like the classical machine learning approaches, which is still a huge area and a huge opportunities for business as well. But the thing is, it's like the focus within AI really shifted to generative AI and large language models. So now if I talk about studying AI like 10 years ago, people are like, hey, was AI already a thing back then? Like I've said, AI really started in the 1950s already, a long time ago, and back then it was mainly just statistical models that, due to like the increase in computing size, were now able to process more data. So if you really look at machine learning and also how these large language models that OpenAI, for example, is using, it's just mathematical models that have been trained with lots of data. And for that, you need computing power. And these statistical models, they were already made, they were already known in like early 90s, the 40s, 50s, and then all of a sudden you had computers that could now be tuned and process all of that. So during my studies, it was much more focused on just classical machine learning, statistics, not so much on generative AI. So that's really something I had to dive in over the past year. So about me, next to that, I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about data science, artificial intelligence, now mainly generative AI. So that has been a really exciting journey. Started like 1.5 years ago, something like that. And
I know because I'm watching it. This is how I found you.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
You are one of the first who started talking about this, and what I really liked in the beginning, because I'm not a programmer, I'm an entrepreneur, but I like to get my hands in coding sometimes. So like 6 months ago, I said, okay, I want to learn Python. No, I didn't want to learn Python. I just wanted to create some code with Python. That's how I found you. And I was like, copy, paste with GPT-4. And I managed to do some amazing scripts back then.
Perfect. Love to hear
So your channel is, how do people find your channel?
So that's just my name, Dave Ebbelaar. You can search for that, and then you will find it on YouTube. And
follow and subscribe for Dave.
Thank you. Yeah, so I really like to position the channel. So what I saw within YouTube, but also like just the content space in general, when it came to data science and artificial intelligence, you kind of have like two ends of the spectrum, where on the one, and right now still, I believe, on the one hand you have, especially now with AI, you have people talking a lot about low-code and no-code tools. So people that see this hype within AI, there are a lot of people rushing into AI, but that might not have like a technical background. So for those getting started, using low-code, no-code tools is an excellent opportunity, and you can definitely make some great applications with that. I also heard you exploring Chatbase, for example.
Absolutely amazing chat base.
You can really do some cool things with that. But so what I'm really seeing right now, that on the one hand you have people talking about those applications, not really getting into the technical details, and then on the other end of the spectrum you have the more research-oriented people that really go deep, really go to the fundamentals, first principles, to the mathematics, and like how these models actually work and operate. And also during my years in university, I always found it, because I like to learn by watching videos. That's really, I'm like, I don't really like reading books a lot when it comes to technical stuff, but for me it's just too like high level. I just show me some examples, show me how it works, and then I will reverse engineer. That's kind of like my approach, how I go about things. And I really thought, okay, that is something that I missed during university, so that's something I want to try and create with my YouTube channel. So I really want to position myself in the middle, where yes, we get into the technical details, but we really keep it hands-on and focus on the implementation and not so much on the theoretical aspect. So for those of you that are interested in that, that's kind of like what my channel is about. And that's also for people even new to the space, like you mentioned yourself. I try to keep it welcoming for anyone. So that about me. Then also, so I run a company called Datalumina, and for that we really try to help people navigate the world of data and artificial intelligence. So we focus on B2B and B2C. So for B2B, it is on consulting projects, where right now we really focus on AI brainstorm and implementation sprints. So usually these are like sprints of like 4 weeks, where we really start with the company, like, and if they, because also what you see right now, a lot of companies want to do something with AI.
Yeah, but they don't know what.
But they don't know what.
How and when. Yeah.
Exactly. So for that, we start with a brainstorm. So we start with some key stakeholders from the company, really like show some examples, get some brainstorming going on, and then identify some use cases that could be relevant for the company, where we can make some impact. And from that, we basically create a backlog of items that we can work on, and then we identify the highest priority one, low-hanging fruit, and we say, okay, this is one we're going to implement for you. We'll build a prototype, MVP, whatever you want to call it, in 4 weeks to really show like, hey, this is how it works, this is the value it can add for your company, and then we basically go from there. So with Datalumina, we're really focusing on that right now. Finishing up the first few proof of concept with companies, and so far that has been going really well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So in 4 weeks, you start from awareness, identifying key issue, and then in 4 weeks we have something working. Like
yes, you have an actual product that you can use, nice. Actual prototype. Yeah.
And does the company need to have its own programmers or IT development, or you guys do everything? We
do everything. So if there is already...
I need you to teach me this business model.
Okay, yeah. We can talk about it later. So the thing is also, it kind of depends on the company you work with. So if they have IT programmers already that want to learn, we're of course open to do some kind of like co-creation. But usually what we're seeing right now, since everything is so new, they really say like, okay, you do it. And then for like the production or the implementation, we teach their IT team how to host this. Because in the end, when it's built, it's just simple web applications that you have to.
Are these companies scared? I mean, are they afraid that they are going to defocus from daily to daily operations and then move the focus and resources to AI, and they are afraid that they are not going to have an actual result? Is this an issue? Because I see this in a lot of companies in Romania, like daily operations is like 150% of the time. There's always a fire to
exactly.
to clean. So when it comes to AI, a lot of people are saying, okay, it's nice, it's interesting, I'm seeing the ways, but we don't have time, we don't have focus, and until we understand the real results, I'm not going to move resources from my company to do this. So do you see this, or do people that came to you, companies that came to you, are really early adopters and they say, oh, I like this, let's test it on. It's going to be amazing.
It's mostly the early adapters. So usually the clients we work with, the conversations usually go something like this. Hey, we see everything that's going on with artificial intelligence right now. We know that it's not going away. We know that in the future we'll have to adapt. Let's try and make it work. We don't know how to get started. We need your help. That's usually the conversation.
And your clients are international.
Yeah, so mostly from Netherlands and in US is what we're currently working with.
And you have that mastermind also.
Yeah, so that is the kind of like B2C oriented more of Datalumina. So for that, right now we have two communities, two platforms that we have. So one recently launched, which is called Data Alchemy, which is a free group. So this is an online community, online portal for people that want to learn artificial intelligence, want to learn data science, and it's basically an extension of my YouTube channel. But then in a free community, the content is a little bit more structured, similar to how you would go through a course. And then next to that, we have Data Freelancer, which is a mastermind for data professionals that want to launch and scale their freelance career, really want to kickstart things off, but don't really know where to start.
Okay, so you work with companies and then you work with people, with freelancers that want to learn and dive into artificial intelligence.
So we position ourselves to, we do a couple of things, but it all feeds back into each other, where we work with clients, we do projects, and then we have other data professionals that want to learn how to do that as well, and that is what we teach in the mastermind.
And so after they learn, you can use them and they can have service your clients that you have from the B2B.
Exactly.
Smart.
Exactly. So that is how it all feeds into each other. So that about me. Let's see, what else do we got here on the screen? Not much. Let's see. Okay. So that was introduction. So now we'll get into the actual technical things. Starting off with large language model app architecture. And we want to start kind of like low level. And first for some context, just start with a definition of a large language model for anyone that might be viewing, listening, and so doesn't know, like, hey, you talk about large language, what actually is it? It's the model basically behind ChatGPT. That's not the only one. It's a category. There are plenty of large language models already out there. It's just a big language model that's trained on lots of data. But to get formal for the definition, a large language model is a type of artificial intelligence algorithm that uses deep learning techniques and massively large data sets to understand, summarize, generate, and predict new content. Okay. And now for the content, I will be showing some images, and just to be clear, I got them online, so I will link all the sources over here. So just to show you, this is from a Medium article, just to give credits to the author, because I think these are really good to start with some general introduction. So when you talk about these large language models and you want to build applications around them, really at the core is what we call a prompt. So that is a question you ask to the model, something you send to the model. So this is similar to the question you type in ChatGPT. That when you hit enter, you send the prompt. And what the large language model will do is it will give you back the completion. So it will give you the answer back. So you can kind of see like answer and then question. But then here it gets a little bit interesting. So this is what ChatGPT is. So basically. So
it's that simple.
Yeah, it's that simple. Yeah.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah. This
one is blue and one I don't know.
This is what it is in the end. Yeah. If we go one step further, we can think of a dynamic prompt. And this is where it can get interesting, because here we can insert some variables. And this is what you want to do in an application. So, for example, you let the user ask a question, but then in the back end, based on the user or based on some data, you fill in some more information within that prompt. So you extend it. So you can kind of like see already write the message to, and then you put in the name, and then to schedule a meeting for, and then you have tomorrow afternoon. So in your application, you could, for example, create something where the user only has to put in a name and a date, or a topic and some keywords. If you want to create, for example, to help you to write content for social media, something like that, you could create an application where you say, okay, help me write. You can write a Facebook post, an Instagram post with this. Fill in the topic, the keywords, and your tone of voice. So the user only has to fill in that, and then in the back end, you create a dynamic prompt. That's another like key component of how you create applications around it. And now, if you go one step further, we get into the notion of like prompt chaining. So this is where you first have one prompt, and that generates a response. And that response you feed back into the next prompt. So here you can see you can generate some steps. So list the steps to create a web application. That would be prompt 1. And then you get all the steps. And then, so first step would be to choose a language of the application that you actually want to write it in. And then prompt 2 would be, I'm creating a web application, explain how to, and then you put in a step, choose a tool or a language. So this is also something in the back end of your application that you can configure, where with ChatGPT, for example, it's all the user. So you ask a question and you might get an answer, and then you want to know some more. So you ask another question, and then you get a response back, and you ask another question. And within your application, you can prompt chain this together.
And are you using this prompt chaining technique to write code?
I'm personally not using it to write code. From that, I mostly, if I want to get assistance with that, I just use ChatGPT. But things like AutoGPT, the applications that really let you start with a goal, for example, and then start to work on their own, this is what they're doing constantly. So they first create a plan, and then based on that plan, they take step 1 and they feed it back into the model, get a response, and then go iteratively, basically through it. All right, and then we get into the next part, and this is where the actual value for businesses comes in. Because one of the problems that you will run into if you start to interact with these models is the notion of hallucination.
Exactly.
And what hallucination is, what it means is basically it comes up with answers that are just incorrect. Because in the end, it is still a statistical model that calculates the next word based on a probability. It has seen lots of data, and it really understands a lot of stuff, but sometimes it just says things, it gives an output that's just plain wrong. It's not correct. Logic is incorrect, and that's what we call hallucination. And one way to counter this is to provide it with actual examples and factual information. Information that you know is true. And this could be for a company from an internal source. So this could be some documentation, these could be some SOPs, this could be an FAQ where you have answers and questions to that are created by humans, validated. So
and you already have it in your database.
And you already have it in your database. So this is really where it gets interesting from the perspective of building these applications, because companies already have these internal databases. And now we can use AI to extract information from that in a more effective and efficient way. So while these large language models can introduce hallucinations because of how they are programmed, they are really good at taking information and then rephrasing that or summarizing that in a way without introducing errors. So they're really, really good at that.
I have a funny story. Okay. actually not funny.
A story.
Just a story.
Yeah.
Back like 4 or 5 months ago, after I understood how this technology is working, I said, okay, let's solve one of our biggest problems that we have with our platform, with Termine.ro.
Yeah.
So one of the issues is that we need to have actual contact data for companies. Yeah. So I had the brilliant idea, like the unique idea, and I went to one of my programmers and I said, Marius, let's do this. Let's scan all Romanian business websites every day, all of them, and then let's extract information, let's extract the entire text from this website and just send it to ChatGPT and prompt ChatGPT to extract contact telephone number, emails. Let's identify what kind of clients is this selling to, like B2B, B2C, B2G, and so on. And let's populate our data with this amazing new information. So I did understand the concept of hallucinations, but I was not afraid of it because I'm an entrepreneur. So I said, what can go wrong?
Let's do it.
Nothing can go wrong.
Yeah.
So we tested this entire script. It worked. And I said, okay, let's put it live. So we got this data, and we have like almost 1 million web pages for Romanian companies where we have information like name, company, financial data, and so on. And we added another section, and we said, okay, contact information. So everything went perfectly. What can go wrong? Nothing can go wrong. Then people start calling us, and they're like, look, guys, I'm checking my company, and you have a phone number that is not mine. Or, guys, I have an address on my company that's not my address, or an email address, and it's not my email address. So the AI started to hallucinate. So where it could not find the actual telephone number, he just invented it. So then we had to rewrite the script, and we added another layer, and we said, okay, after you find this telephone number, we took the phone number and we search it again in the text that we got from the website. Yeah. So we managed to eliminate a lot of the errors. But in the end, we cut off this feature. I mean, there were so many problems that we had to cut it off from our website. And we'll see after. Maybe we find from what you're showing us, maybe we found a way to eliminate these hallucinations.
Yeah. I think that's a great example. And I've also ran into that issue multiple times where if the information is not there, but you instruct it to fill it in, it will somehow just think, okay, I need a telephone number here. Yeah. I'll just put it in.
But the structure was perfect. It respected the Romanian numbers. The address was perfect. Everything was perfect until you call.
And that's the thing. That's something you got to be careful about when you're working with these large language models, because the thing is they are programmed or they are trained to produce text and outputs that is common to what you would see. So it's hard to spot errors. Exactly. So of course, if there's no telephone number and it just does something, a random number, or the country code is not good, you will see, okay, that's not correct, but it will produce the results. And if you just look at it, you feel, okay, that seems correct, right? Well, if there's a number.
In our company, in the last 3-4 years, actually, we developed our own Romanian language model. Yeah. But the way we trained this model was with annotation. So we labeled like 100K text. Yeah. And this model is not generative. It can extract entities, it can extract relation, it can understand sentiments and so on. Yeah. But it doesn't hallucinate because it wasn't trained. It's not a generative model. Yeah. So with this one, we have high percent of high accuracy of entity extraction. But back then, GPT-4 looked like it was a fancier tool to use. Yeah. So the point here is that there are models that do not hallucinate. You can train some that do not generate text. They just understand the text and extract the information. Yeah. And in some cases, maybe it's better right now to use these models than to use a large language model like GPT, from my point of view. Yeah,
that could be, depending on the use case. So I don't have much experience with that. That's more like a more classical approach to natural language processing. And I could see how in some cases it's better. Yeah, so hallucination is something you have to be careful about when you build these applications. And now one way to counter that, like I've said, they're very good at taking factual information and then rephrasing it, putting it into an answer that is actually true. So how that works, and we'll get into this a little bit deeper, but for now, like high level, if we start with like green, you have a user question. And you first check this question against a database, typically a vector database, which stores vector representations of text, which is just you take text and you convert it to numbers, so a computer can actually do something with it. And then typically a similarity search is performed, where you basically check, okay, we have a user question, which is also converted to numbers, so an array of numbers, and then we have the database, and you do a similarity search to check, okay, we have the question over here, which entry of our database is most similar
to this question,
and that is closest to this question. And then you will retrieve that piece of information from your database, and then now you have a question and you have data from your database, and then that is still numbers, and then you convert it back to text.
And the difference here from normal search, like the way you used to search, is that you can use different words.
Yeah.
That's the main difference.
Yeah,
I can say a word, and if in my database, in my vector database, the context is using different words, the model understands and can find me the. Can we give an example here?
About different words?
Yeah.
I think, let's see. We'll get into that in the first one. Yeah, in the next one to get a little bit more visual representation of how that works. But so you have the question, and then you get the result from the database back. And here you can see you have all the relevant results, and you can then decide, okay, how many results do I want to pick? Do I just want one, or do I want multiple ones? And then you can see you feed that back into the prompt. So then something interesting happens, where now you don't just answer, or you don't just send the question to the model, to the large language model, but you prompt engineer it in such a way where, hey, this is the user question. Here are relevant data sources, and you have the data, and then you typically instruct it with something like, only base your answer on these data sources.
Okay, so this is how you eliminate hallucinations.
Exactly, and that tends to work really well, because the model understands, okay, this is the context that I should use, and I'm only allowed to provide an answer within these boundaries. And then typically the final thing what you would add is specifically state if you're not sure, or you can't answer the question based on the data, just tell, or just give the answer that you don't know, or you don't have enough information. And with that as well, you counter the problem where just trying to fill up. So for example, with a telephone number, if you instruct it, if there's no telephone number, just say no telephone number. It will do that. And configuring it like that, like I've said, tends to work really well, and is currently how most of the real applications around large language models are built, using this architecture from kind of low level. So this is what's going on. And then I think this is a really nice representation of a vector database and how that works. So here you can see, for example, the word mobile phone, and then you can, let me see, can I make it a little bigger? Perfect. Then you can see, so it's just a numerical representation. And then, for example, we have the word rabbit, another numerical representation. And then we have here, I just got a call from a telemarketer. And here you can see
each word has a number, a numeric representation.
Yeah, and then exactly. And then also the whole sentence in general. And here you can see how it then understands that while mobile phone is not in, I just got a call from a telemarketer, but in terms of similarity within the space that we're seeing over here, it's closer to the question I just got or the sentence I just got a call from a telemarketer is closer to mobile phone than to rabbit. And that is due to so you have multiple ways and multiple models that you can use for factorization. So one popular model is also from OpenAI Embeddix, that you can use to transform.
What's its name? Ada, no?
Yeah, that's based on Ada Text 3. I believe you have various versions of that. I think the latest is Ada 3. And that is how you create that numerical
So ADA, it's a model from OpenAI that you can use to send text, and it gives you back the vectors.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and after that, you can use these vectors to store it in a database locally or Pinecone. Or last week, my colleagues told me that even MySQL has vector database.
Yeah, I
don't know if it's working well, but
and the thing is, it's quite funny actually. So. Right now, you have the sudden rise of vector databases. Pinecone, really popular right now, and I also know like a lot of like companies that do something with vector data. They get funded, and all the VCs are like, "Oh, this is interesting, this is a new thing." But in the end, if you look at what it is, if you look at what a vector is, it's just an array of numbers.
That's it.
And you could store this in every database.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think, for example, Pinecone, what they just did, it's kind of like marketing, positioning. They did it really well, and also they really put a good, a really good similarity search and all the algorithms. Of course, you have that on top as well. So it's not just storing the data; it's more than that. And also in terms of like how you scale it, but you could use anything for it.
We've been seeing this, and this is a key point when you try to understand artificial intelligence when you try to use tools. A lot of the tools that we've seen are just basic add-ons or wrappers over the underlying technology, which is either ChatGPT, a large language model, or Whisper, which is transcription, or Ada, which is doing the vectorization, and so on. So this is, I don't know if it's a danger, but when you're trying to implement these tools, you should really do your research and understand, is this just a wrapper? Is this just an add-on? Am I paying for something that I should not be paying? Because, I don't know, it's free.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as like vector databases, Pinecone is really built for scale, I would say, because you can really scale on that. But there are also like great open source vector databases like ChromaDB. You could just like put it on your storage account or in your server. It's just a little file that's just sitting there, and it works. And depending on what you're doing. So if you're just testing, just prototyping, that works totally
My approach
fine.
here, and let's just quick. My approach here is like this. I tend to test whatever tool I find because they're quite cheap. $20, $30, whatever. It's not costing. So after I test it and I understand and see, okay, this technology is working, then I go beyond. One example here is with HappyScribe. So HappyScribe is the speech to text. I give it the recordings, and it's like €5 per hour, which is okay. It's not a high cost until you want to 1,000 hours of podcast. So then what we did is we took the Whisper model, we installed it locally on premise on our servers, and now it's free. We went to 5 hours per hour, which is it's not a big cost until you want to scale up. But when you have a lot of audio that you want to transcribe, then we just took the model, and I was amazed. I had no idea it's free. Like my colleagues downloaded and it tested it, and I said, okay, but where is the cost? No, it's free. If you put it locally, there's absolutely no cost. It's like 10 giga or something like that. It's not a big model, but I think, maybe not basic knowledge, but it's a tool that you can pay a programmer or freelancer, like 3-4 hours or 8 hours. You're going to pay, €200, €300 for a setup like that. It's going to install it for you, and then you can use it for free forever. So the money is there.
Yeah, true.
But in the beginning, I think it's okay to pay and test these tools like Pinecone or whatever.
Yeah. And
guys, sorry for my English. Sorry for my Russian accent and my basic English. When I invited you, I was saying I thought about writing my questions and just have an AI translate into English. But I said that was going to be really freak. So let's keep it natural.
Let's keep it natural. So maybe next year you don't have to be here.
It's going to be a hologram.
It's just a robot. Sure. Yeah. And the funny thing about it and using Whisper, maybe I don't know HappyScribe, but could very well be that just in the background they're using Whisper as well. Of course,
for sure they're using it. 100% they're using Whisper. 100%, I'm sure about it.
But Whisper is awesome, and you have a lot of like these tools right now where there's an open source version of that.
Exactly,
and
open source free. It's not going to cost you anything.
Yeah. All right. So that was kind of like high level how like vector databases works, and then together with the question answering. So like I said, we'll get into this a little deeper, But this is really where the database query and the relevant results, how they are queried, how they are, how you get those. And then let's see, we have like 2 more here, like basic concepts.
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah, sure. Like,
perfect.
we can do,
Perfect.
we can do this as well. So another notion is a chat prompt. So what we have over here, and this is also what ChatGPT is doing. But the first iterations of these models was just you send a question, you send a query, you get an answer back. And you do that over and over and over again. There's not really a history or anything. You could build that yourself. But what you could do with the chat prompt is you can have a series of messages back and forth, questions and answers. And then based on the whole conversation and the latest question or input, it tries to give you the answer. And this is how you can create a much more natural conversation that you're having with an AI like ChatGPT. And then here is what a chat conversation then could look like. So you basically build it up. So you have first request, then another request, and then you have every time. So you can see there's a response in purple over here, response from the AI. So that just gets put into here as part of the chat, and then you have another user question. And you get a new response, and then the AI answers again. So this is how you build that up, and you give that context to the application.
But the first layer system is the same all the time.
Yeah, that's the same.
But you don't see it anymore.
Exactly.
That's the key point here.
Yeah,
So some instructions, they stay behind. You don't see them. You just naturally interact with it. But the history of the conversation and the basic instructions are there all the time. Like
exactly. This is a very good addition. So that is where you use the system to instruct, for example, tone of voice or kind of like instructions that it should keep.
Pretend you are AI specialist or
exactly.
data analyst specialist.
Yeah. All right. So those were really the key concepts, low level, that you need to understand to build applications around large language models. And now we'll get into the more high level of what it would.
Oh my God!
I'm going to zoom in a little for you guys here. Wait, let me first give some context. So this is also from. Just going to show you from another article that I found. Someone wrote on Substack. So this is from Jake. Again, excellent overview. So in the article, he said, while you may not need all the components that you will see in the visual over here in the architecture, it does show it's not really straightforward to just add ChatGPT to your website or to just add AI to your application. And he coins this, or this is actually from Alo's Enterprise, I believe, this image, and they call this like the emergent large language model app stack. And I'm not going to get into all of the specifics here, but just high level to illustrate that really at the core, at the orchestration level, what you're seeing really right now is either like Python code, do-it-yourself Python code, the LangChain library, or Llama index, I don't have experience with that, or and just the ChatGPT, the OpenAI API. But this is really at the core, and that's why I also want to get into LangChain with you. Because like I've said, LangChain makes it easy to interact with all of the building blocks that you're seeing over here. So here we have the embeddings that we were just talking about, with interact with the vector database. And you can use additional APIs to add logic, add automations, to do calculations, do a Wikipedia search. You as well as you have your data pipelines that you, for example, have from your own internal company. And then here on the other hand, we have the actual application where user interacts. So this would be a user question, for example, and this would be an output. So this is really like the user side of things, the application. And then in the back end, you have all kinds of like things. So you can work with cache to an LLM ops, which is a new term, like the operational side of things. So how you actually control, monitor, debug, and test your large language models applications. And recently, LangChain also launched Langsmith, which we'll probably also get into, give a quick demo of what that can do. And validation. So that is what I first wanted to show you about this. These are all like the components that you could need to create an application.
Dave,
around
if
that.
I have no experience with programming.
Yeah.
Absolutely none. But I'm a smart guy. Let's say I'm not only, we have a term in Romania, streetwise.
Streetwise,
But I'm smarter than that.
Yeah.
I understand logic, I understand some mathematics, but I never programmed in my life.
Yeah.
And I like this. Yeah. And I'm good with tools. I can use Facebook, I can use Instagram. I can use, I don't know, I can use my computer and I have some, maybe even a little Excel. How long does it take me today if I want to start today? I've seen this very scary graph, overwhelming graph, and I say, this is a career shift. I want to go on this hype and I want to learn how to implement AI in companies. From today, how long does it take me if I put, I don't know, all my time in it, until I can implement basic LLMs into a company?
Sure. I think, on average, if you follow my YouTube channel and join my free group, where I've outlined the whole course for free is this on how to get started with this, I think in 2 months, 3 months, you could implement simple applications using custom code for companies. Months. I think, you can do that.
No programming.
Yeah, you can do that.
All.
You can do that.
So, Romanian entrepreneurs, my fellow Romanians, the idea is like that. You look into your company, you find one guy, so one girl, so one colleague that has a basic understanding of online tools, that is very fast with Facebook, that maybe understands some Excel, and in 3 months, that person can be your AI chief officer. Because we talk a lot about this new role that companies need, CAIO, Chief AI Officer. My point of view here is that this is the first step as an entrepreneur. That we have to do is to create this new role in companies and to train this new person. So in 3 months, this person, if it has the resources, if you give them the time, can have basic understanding and can already implement basic things in your companies. The other alternative is to find companies like Datalumina, like Dave, that can come to you, consult you, and in 4 weeks, in 1 month, you can already have this implemented using some outside. This is absolutely amazing. Yeah. We are talking about new skills, high-end skills that people can acquire in 3 months, and high-end integrations that you can have in your company in 1 month. Never in the history of entrepreneurship this was ever possible. Never. This is for the first time that we can do this in Netherlands, in Romania, in Australia. It doesn't really matter where you are. You can integrate this technology that fast and have really, really amazing results. Okay?
Definitely.
Let's go back to the overwhelming graphs.
Good point. And to add on to that point, where you said hey, you can either go with external companies, do some kind of consulting, or train people internally. I think best of both worlds would be to combine it, exactly, and then do some co-creation. So identify some key players within your company who are interested in this, and then try to do a project to really quickly get up and running. And just I can give a quick, let's see, for people that are interested. And this is not a pitch or anything because it's all free. This is the community that I just launched, Data Alchemy, and I really created it with the idea in mind to take an absolute beginner that wants to do something with AI and get him or her to the level where you can actually start to create your first application. And why did I create that? Because on my YouTube channel, I get a lot of questions where I kind of still start from the beginning, but then people say, but I don't know Python. I don't know how to work with environments. I don't know how to set this up. I don't know how to work with GitHub. And I really created the course over here, the Alchemy Codex is what I call it. So here you can see fundamentals, workflow, and then efficiency, to really teach you all of the core fundamentals that you need to really get started with this. So that could be interesting to look at if you or someone in your company wants to get a better understanding of this. All right. Okay, so this was the real scary graph. Now that is out of the way, we let's see. Let's get into this one, which is kind of what we've already discussed, but this also gives a bit of a more visual representation of what it looks like under the hood when you create these applications. And again, so this is from Amlan Patnaik, another great image. So here in the top right corner, you can see the large language models. And then here we have the user question. So again, this is just another representation where you see, okay, you have the question, we create the embeddings, then we get into the database. But then what's also interesting over here is this notion of taking your large documents and then splitting it up. And that's why I wanted to show you this, because we've talked about hallucination, how do you use company data, and limits that you run into with the token size. And that basically means is you cannot send your whole database to the model and then just say like, answer this question. Here's everything.
Unless your database is like 8K tokens or 100K for Anthropic.
Exactly, 100K for Anthropic, and for OpenAI, I believe it's 16 right now.
3.5.
Yeah. And so what you have to do is you have to split up those documents. You have to split up that information into chunks. So when you perform the similarity search, it finds the relevant piece of information, and based on that, it will answer the question. And you mentioned, hey, with Anthropic, we can get into the 100K, but then I would still believe in some scenarios it's better to chunk probably. Why is that? Because you don't want to overload the large language model with just all your information, because you might have pieces of information in your database that are similar to each other, but have different use cases.
That's the same point of view that we had in one of the sessions. We have Ștefan Dumitrescu, which is a machine learning engineer at Adobe, and he's working with large language models the same like 10, 12 years ago. And he had the same perspective when he came to 100K token. He said, basically, most of the time it's too much. So again, you have to chunk it.
Yeah. And then you get into, that is a challenge for working with these models. How do you make sure you actually retrieve the right piece of information? If there are two topics that are close to each other but slightly different use case or scenario, then that is a challenge. That is something you have to do. And then it also comes back again to like good data engineering, providing really good metadata, and then you get to like the more traditional side of building applications. It's not just, oh, AI is here, now it's easy, we can just plug it in and we get the answer. And then it really comes back to, okay, how do you structure your data internally? What context do you provide? What metadata do you provide? All right. Okay, so that was architecture now, like high level. So we started low, and these are all like the building blocks that you need. And now, let's go back. Okay. That brings us to LangChain. There we are.
Finally. After 12 sessions.
Yeah.
we are going to talk about my favorite tool when it comes to AI.
Yeah, which is it's basically a framework created to make everything that we've just discussed pretty easy. Yeah. And you can use LangChain in Python as well as in JavaScript, and there are probably by now already other wrappers and things that you can use it with. But at the core, LangChain consists of the following components. So you have models, data connections, chains, memory, and agents.
Let's explain what is LangChain. Overview.
High
overview.
Yeah, high overview. So
it's not OpenAI and it's not Anthropic.
It's an open source framework that you can use. Like I said, you can use it with Python, and you can use it with JavaScript, probably with other tools now as well. And it has pieces of code, building blocks already, that you can use to quickly tie everything together when you want to interact with large language models applications. And in a bit, I will show you a quick demo, then it will get a little bit more visual. But here, I think in this image over here, at a high level, really explains what LangChain can do. So on the top here, we have all the data connections that we were just talking about. So now it comes back to what we were previously talking about. So you can load data, you can transform data, you have the embeddings, you have the vector stores, and then you have also retrievers, which mean you can get data from the vector stores again. Then on the model part, we have the prompts that we were talking about. So how do you instruct your question? Then we have, of course, the language models that you can use, so the one from OpenAI, but also other models that you can use. And it's really streamlined in such a way that even if you want to use a completely different model from a completely different company or
really
open source, you just
switch.
change one parameter. You change the name, and it works.
Exactly.
And that is with all of these building blocks that they've created. If you want to use a Pinecone database, just
Very
put in
easy.
Pinecone. If you would want to use ChromaDB, it's as simple as changing the variable to ChromaDB. And in the backend, it's all configured already.
And in document loaders, you can really easy, because ChatGPT, it doesn't have anymore the option to access the internet and web pages, but with LangChain, you can just specify a website, and it's going to get all the data from that website. Or you specify a PDF, and it gets all the data from PDF. It has different type, it can work with PDF, Words, CSV, and so on. And this is the document loader option, which is really amazing. Like, I have multiple type of information, it's just really easy to configure and say, okay, I want to get the data from this specific source.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also Excel, if I remember. I think it basically covers everything.
Let's see, LangChain, document loaders. Let's see.
So CSV, file directory, HTML, JSON, Markdown, PDF.
Yeah. So here's a CSV, all of that. And then you see quick examples of how you can use that. So these are some examples that I will show in a bit, but you can see how it's as easy as just saying, hey, I want PDF, and then you can see here you can just point to the file path and it says now I want the PDF, and then in the back end it's all
another thing that I really like about LangChain is that it's really well documented. That was it's really easy to
anyone can just go to here, go to the quick start and just say, hey, here's how you work with it, here's how you set it up.
Basically, I have no idea how it was. I just copy paste, and it worked for me.
And
so that's amazing.
Exactly. Let's see, where were we? Okay. And then let's see what all. So we talked about change as well. So this was sequencing different steps. So you can have an intermediate output, feed it back into the model. Memory is just how you can keep track of a conversation or keep track of a history. Tools, we also touched upon that, where you can use, like, for example, calculators, or can search from Wikipedia. And the only new thing in here is the notion of agents, which are basically little tiny, like, robots, you could even call it, that have specific tools and instructions, specific tasks that they can do. So you could, for example, have a calculation agent that when a user asks a question and the model identifies, oh, there's a calculation in here, it could specifically instruct the agent that has access to a calculator, because these models are not very good at making calculations. And then you can have an agent with a calculator, and then it sends a request to that, and it gives the answer back. And yeah, for agents, you can get really creative with that. It can be as simple as a calculator, but it can be as complex as some kind of like sales agent that can help users with specific questions.
Okay.
So that is LangChain in a nutshell. A framework to make all of this really easy that you can programmatically interact with. And it's built up of all of these components. Okay. Let's see. I think now for the flow of this presentation is better if we first go to the demo and then maybe conclude with this data privacy security. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you some examples. So we're going to switch to my code editor over here. And then I'm just going to show you how fairly easy and straightforward it is to get started with LangChain. And these are some examples from the quick start. So like you said, it's all very well documented. So here you have the quick start on the LangChain documentation, and now I'm here in my code editor, and we're running this within VS Code and in Python.
Okay.
And right now, here you have the basic setup that you can use to query a model. So let me zoom in a little bit for you so now we can actually see what's going on. So you first create the large language model variable, and you can really see, you can almost read this in English. You say you have a large language models, which is OpenAI, and this is the specific type of model that we want to use. So say, okay, this is what we want. And now we have a prompt So this is the user question. This is what you would put into ChatGPT, write a poem, and then we say we run it and we print it. And then it thinks, and then boom, now we have a beautiful poem. So,
and you can change the model to GPT-4, to
Yeah.
Anthropic, to Claude.
Exactly.
Very easy, just replace that line over there.
We could just, if you want to use Anthropic, for example, there's an Anthropic class for that. And here you can see how literally in 3 lines of code, we created something where we can programmatically now get a question from a user, send it to, in this case, the OpenAI API, get a response back, and now have the answer over here. So we basically have our own little version of ChatGPT over here. I can just change this question, and I can just continue the conversation over here. But then to make things a little bit more interesting, we can get into the prompt templates. So now we get into the dynamic prompting, as you remember from one of the earlier images, where now we put into brackets over here, you see product. So we have a template. What is a good name for a company that makes products? And now when we run that and we format it, you can see how it now just inserts the product that we've specified. So you can see here, what is a good name for a company that makes smart apps using large language models? So pretty straightforward. You define the variable and then you put it in. So yeah, then you create the template. And now we can again use that to run, and then we'll create a chain. And this is something new then in LangChain, where we say, okay, now we have a large language model, and we also put in the prompt, and then we want to run this chain, which means we first have the model, then we create the prompt, which is based on the prompt template, and the prompt template, in there we have to put in the product in this case. So then over here we can chain run, so then it would make what is a good name for a company that makes AI chatbots for dental offices, and we run it, and now we get our response, Dent AI chatbot solutions. And now the thing that's going on here behind the screen, so for example, you have a lot of AI tools, for example, Jasper or copy.ai, where that can help you with copywriting. So they have specific sections, for example, write an email for me, or write a caption for me. And what you could then do is in your application, you can, for example, take this prompt over here, and then you can just change this, for example, write an email, let's see, subject for this topic. And then you put in topic. And then we can just take this one more time. And now let's say you want help with your email newsletter. So AI, let's see, there's an AI session. Yeah, you have an email about an AI session, and now we can very easily change this this topic. Let's see, I have to put in this as well, and then we run this. Join us for an educational AI session. So you can see how very easily, with just like swapping the variable names, we now have something that we could potentially put into an application and just say, help me write a Facebook post on topic this. Help me write an email newsletter on topic this. And then the user only has to put in the topic, in this case, AI session, and the application will give us the answer.
And this is relevant because we can use LangChain and with a little coding to automate our marketing efforts, because you can have connectors with Facebook, with LinkedIn, with Twitter, and so on, and you can automate your posting or an online presence, starting with having, like, I don't know, an email from a client or any type of input that you have as a trigger, and from that point on, using LangChain, you can just create online content basically automatically.
You can do it.
Using LangChain and using, I don't know, a couple of hours of integration. This is not for an IT, for a developer, it's not rocket science. It's really something that you can use, as we see how you do it. Click, 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 and results are showing up.
Yeah. So let's see. So, okay, so here's another interesting example. So now we get into the notion of tools. So we're now going to use an agent that we just talked about, and we're going to give it access to 2 tools. So we'll give it access to Wikipedia and to math, so to a calculator, basically. And what we will now do is, let's first define everything, and then, because this is actually pretty interesting, let me show you the example. So we're going to ask a question, and first we say, in what year was Python released, and who is the original creator? Multiply the year by 3. So we have a lot of things going on over here. So first, year of Python. So this could either be learned or trained specifically in the large language model already. So
maybe it already has the information.
It already probably has the information, but for this use case, we want to get the actual facts. So we give it access to the Wikipedia page, and then also the original creator, and then we want to multiply the year by 3. And we're going to give this to the agent, and now what LangChain has done under the hood, and this is real clever, it is when you initialize an agent, it goes through the sequencing, through the chains that we've described.
So first Wikipedia and then the math calculator.
Yeah, so one step before that. So first it looks at the question and it looks at the tools, and then it identifies, okay, what should I do here? And then it understands, okay, this is the question, these are the tools I have access to, and I will show you in a bit. You can see the reasoning, you can see the thinking steps that it did, and then it decides, okay, I first need to use Wikipedia, search for Python, get the date and the author. Those are already some prompts, and then we have that answer, and then we use the calculator, and then we present that again, we formulate an answer, and then we provide it to the user. So let's see if we run that, and here you can set the verbose to true. So this is a parameter that we can set so you can see the thinking going on behind the scenes. Okay, look, here it's going on. Entering new chain. And here you can see what it's doing. So I need to find out when Python was released and who created it.
This is the large language model thinking to itself.
Exactly. Yeah. Just thinking out loud and then think, okay, what is, so action, Wikipedia, action input, Python programming language. And then it has the observation. So this is just from the Wikipedia API. So just the data that is over there. Thought, I now know the answer to the original question. And then the final answer, Python was released in 1991 by Guido van Rossum, and multiplying the year by 3 gives this number over here.
Let's test it with Tesla.
Sure.
Let's see who...
Sure. In what year was Tesla released? Who's the original creator? Multiply the year by 3. Let's do it one more time.
This is really interesting because Tesla can be the science.
Yeah, Nikola Tesla.
Or it can be the company. I'm really interested what's
okay, so let's see. Okay, see
what's his reason? Let's see.
What is it? Tesla is likely a company.
So I should check with Wikipedia too. So how does it know it's likely a company?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here you can see observation. So we have Tesla, the company, but we also have Nikola Tesla. So you can see.
So he founded both.
Yeah, he founded both.
Which
and
is
then,
the Serbian, okay.
Yeah, Tesla was released in.
So for my Romanian conspirationist, I don't know, conspiraționiști din Romania, there is a rumor in Romania that Tesla was Romanian.
Oh, okay.
So he was not.
Yeah.
It's a Serbian guy.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So this is really interesting. So because we say released, then it did find both Nikola Tesla and the company, but it understands, okay, one is a person and it doesn't make sense when that was released.
So it's basically a company. Amazing.
So, but what we can also do, and then it takes the year, so 2008, and then it does the multiplication, and then we have the observation. So final answer, Tesla was released in 2008, was created by... Is this?
Yeah, it's true. It's real. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was Elon.
Elon did not invent Tesla. He's not the original founder.
Oh, okay.
He bought it from these two guys.
Okay,
Tesla
interesting.
Yeah, it's true. The information is true.
But then, in what year was Tesla? Born, and who is the original creator? So let's just ask it.
Maybe he answers God.
Yeah. Let's see who's the creator. So now it should it should enter the same chain of reasoning. I need to find out when Tesla was born. So again, it gets both results. So corporation and the person. And okay, so here it says Nikola Tesla was born. Okay, so it gets the year, he himself is the original creator. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So here you can see the use of agents, and there's really a lot of things going on in the background. And just for reference, let me actually this image, sequencing. Should look at. Yeah, so the prompt chaining. So it really does a lot of steps. So here you can see list the steps to create a web application. That's really what's going on behind the scenes over here. I need to find out when Tesla was born and the original. So it goes into these multiple steps, and then if you can look into the LangChain library in the documentation, but in the backend it's all like smart, like prompt engineering, and because it's all open source, you can really see how they've instructed an agent. So I haven't looked into this specifically, but there's probably something like, hey, you're an agent doing this and this, you have access to these and these tools, this is the question.
Somebody else already did the prompt engineering for us. Because as an entrepreneur, when you go to an IT software or an AI agency or whatever, because now it's a big hype and they're popping up like, and you say, okay, I have this use case, I want to create a script that basically I just put a company and it's answering me back when was it found and multiply that by 3. Yeah. So there are a couple of ways of doing that. So basically the developers can say, okay, let's start doing this by hand, let's get the API from OpenAI, let's start prompting, let's do research, and it's gonna, like the offer is gonna be like 1,000 hours of man hours, okay? Mm-hmm. Multiply by, I don't know, 50 euros per hour, and it's gonna cost you 50K, 50 grand to develop this. And the other approach is, okay, I'm gonna use LangChain, and it's gonna be like 12 hours or 20 hours, and I'm gonna get the same results. So I want entrepreneurs to understand this, because the hype is huge. People like this technology. Entrepreneurs want to integrate it in companies, but there's also this cost issue. This should not cost you a fortune. Basically, it should not be hundreds of thousands of euros, and definitely not millions, for sure. Yeah. The cost to integrate and implement should be really not low, because it's not free, and also it's dependable on the type of use case, and the more complex, the more expensive it's going to be. But you should start with the mindset, okay, this should be fast, and this should be not cheap, but it should not be a high price.
Shouldn't break the bank.
That's the mindset here. Yeah, so this is the first time when you can use technology, high-end technology like this. Yeah. I'm not saying it cannot be 50K. Of course it can be. It depends on your complex. But you always have to understand, and you should know, and you should ask the developers, how are you going to do this? Are you going to use some open source tools? Are you going to use LangChain, which is one of the best tools to integrate AI? Or you want to do this by hand? And if they start saying that we need to do this by hand because we need to check and recheck and feedback and blah, 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 big bullshit alarm. Big bullshit alarm you should have in your mind. Beep, 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 beep. Okay.
Yeah, good point, definitely. All right, so those were the agents. Let's see what else we got here. And here's then an example of how they integrate the conversational agent. So this is where you can have the multiple steps. So again, let me quickly run the code. We just perform the same basic steps. We create a large language model again with OpenAI, and now we establish a conversation, what we're doing over here. And we start with just the input, hi there, and then print the output. So hi there, and then the model says, hi there, how can I help you? And that is because the conversation, you can see, is right now out of the box in LangChain. It's prompt engineered. The following is a friendly conversation between a human and an AI. The AI is talkative and provides blah, 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 blah. So this is the whole prompt. It is something you can change, but this is just out of the box how LangChain has configured it. So then you can say hi there, and then it says back, hi there, how can I help you? And what we can then do is we can add another input to start the conversation, continue the conversation. I'm doing well, I'm just having a conversation with an AI, so we put it in there, and then we can print the output. It's the same, so you can see, you can keep track of the whole conversation here. So you can hi there, this was the first response, and then you get, I'm doing well, just having a conversation with an AI, and then you can see the output. Let me actually show you.
The point here to make is that it's doing this automatically, because otherwise, again, the two scenarios, doing all by manual or using LangChain. The other option is you have to script it, you have to program it to remember the context, and every time you send the input from the user, you have to send the entire context again, which is the hard way. And using LangChain is the easy way because it's already programmed to do this.
Exactly. Yeah, good point. So we get the response back. That's wonderful. It's always nice to have the chat, etc. So now we have a basic conversational agent that we can not only use to ask questions, but we also keep track of the conversation. So it understands the context of like few questions before. All right. So let's see. So that was kind of quick start with LangChain, and let's see. We have a couple more minutes left, right, before we get into the discussion. 5 minutes, So
even more. It's our time.
Okay, perfect. So coming back to the document over here. Let's see. So we did the LangChain demo. So I think would be nice right now to talk about data privacy security, and then for next session we can get really into the data retrieval part. I think that would be nice. Continue from here. So for now, like I've said, we're working with a lot of clients, and like usually first thing that comes up is how do we make sure we do not share our data with OpenAI? And we wanted to keep everything confidential, also GDPR. And our solution right now, which is not the only solution, but we're using Microsoft Azure for this. And why is that? As you maybe know, like Microsoft bought a very large share of OpenAI. And what they now have within Microsoft Azure, their cloud platform, is they have clones of the models that OpenAI are using, which means they have literal copies that you can use. So same power, same use case, but it stays within the Microsoft...
Your environment.
Yeah, in your environment, in your own Azure tenant, based on how you've configured that, and you can specify the location. And Microsoft is also really transparent in, as you can see from the architecture over here.
Can you zoom in?
Yeah. We can... Oh, let's see. About how about what they do with your data, and usually where I start, I can get into this in a bit, but I think they have a whole page over here where they explain the data privacy security for the Azure OpenAI service. So this is how you'd use that, and once it's set up, the interaction is the same. You just get an API endpoint. You get a key and an endpoint that you would use in your program, in your code, and then you can just interact also with LangChain, with this model now in Azure. The same you would with just using regular OpenAI API.
When you decide not to use it anymore, it's deleted. And
you can just delete it. Within Azure, you create like resource group and services, and they store your data within that contained environment, and you can decide to delete that. And I think what's really important, like I said, they're really clear about this.
This is very important.
Yeah. This is official statement, like from Microsoft, how they go about this. So your prompts, inputs, and completions, so what you send to the model and what you get back, and your training are not available to other customers, not available to OpenAI, not used to improve the models, etc. So you can see all of these statements that they make over here. The only thing that they do. Let's see, is in this image over here, is they monitor it for 30 days, and that is for abuse monitoring.
How do they define abuse? Like if you're trying to hijack the language, pretend you're Hitler and whatever.
Something like that. I think maybe just in general try to create applications around that are not in line with the guidelines. So maybe for hacking or whatever, or like I've said, just for statements that you don't want to put out there. So Microsoft probably has, you can see like you can probably learn more about how they monitor that and what they specifically do for that, but you can even apply to modify that. So you can even ask to get an exception for that.
I think this is amazing with Microsoft because most of enterprises are on Azure anyway, or on Microsoft.
Exactly.
So your data is already there.
Exactly.
By design, by default. So if you can use OpenAI in that environment, that's really interesting, really clever. But the key point here is that this is only for ChatGPT. It only works with GPT-4 so far.
For the OpenAI models.
Only for OpenAI
not
models.
for Anthropic.
Anthropic
Yeah,
or
exactly.
other models, of course.
Exactly.
But if ChatGPT is enough for you, this is a really, really nice solution.
Yeah.
Because it's clarifies a lot of the security issues that you have. Also, not only confidentiality, but security also, because you're on Microsoft, so basically you should be as secure as possible. That's really nice.
Yeah. So here you can see you have GPT-4, 3.5, the embedding models, DALL-E. Let's see.
So basically, most of the
OpenAI models are available through here. And
so how about the cost?
Sorry?
Cost pricing. How different is it from?
Let's see.
Because now you're going to have the vector cost, because you're storing your data. You have to vectorize it now.
Yeah, but you can also do that elsewhere. It's mainly just using the API that you send
so
get the queries
from.
You can use
Pinecone or whatever.
Yeah.
So you just
smart. Yeah. And you can even use, so within your Azure tenant, you can also just create, for example, storage account and just use ChromaDB, which is just the open source locally, but then on the cloud. But here you can see all the, so you can, it follows the same pricing structure as OpenAI. So you just pay per token or per 1,000 tokens. I haven't looked or compared them specifically. So this, I can imagine this might be a little bit more expensive for something, but maybe even not. But they're really transparent in seeing what the costs are. So you just pay per tokens.
So 0.028 per prompt, completion 0.055. Now you have to.
Yeah, you have to play with these numbers, but from our experience, it's still relatively cheap if you don't run production scale applications. So this is usually where also we first start the conversation also with our clients, because this is because this is a really important topic, and then we kind of like explain, hey, your data is already at Microsoft for most of the companies, your email is there. This, I would say, is just as safe as
Do you see Copilot a danger for your model business, for the business model? Copilot being the add-on that Microsoft is developing, and you will have AI in all of their products like Outlook, Word, Excel, and so on. Yeah. You think that's a danger because Microsoft will just...
I'm to be honest, I'm not sure. I haven't looked, so I'm using Copilot myself, and I love it, but I haven't looked into the specific data policies and how what they are doing with your data, but I can imagine it's reading your code base. It's understanding your code base. So I'm not sure whether if you really, if you have some IP on internal code, I don't know specifically how Microsoft handles this, but I think given their reputation and what they're doing with this OpenAI approach, I think they are respective of IP, because otherwise
what's the point to create?
What's the point of making a product if companies don't want to use it? But
it makes sense.
But it's always good for every service that you use or want to explore. Really look at these statements, at the privacy and security statements. All companies so usually have a page on this.
One alternative. The other alternative behind Azure, do you see another alternative for data protection and so on?
Yeah, the open source. Open source large language models. So you have the Llama model, for example, from Facebook Research, the Llama 2 model just
So this
released.
Is breaking news. Really breaking news, because I touched this a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. We now have a large language model that we can download into this piece of, I don't know, iron, whatever it is, and we can use it on our machines. So nobody sees what we are prompting, nobody sees our use cases. It's basically yours to do whatever you want. And it's an amazing price, like big price of $0, because it's open source already. And I've seen some discussions in the background that OpenAI is thinking about releasing GPT-4 open source. I've seen this in a couple of forums. Yes, I've seen this last week.
Okay.
And that would be really mind-blowing if it happens. Really mind-blowing.
Wow.
And with Ștefan Dumitrescu from Adobe, he had the same point of view that in the next months, this technology is going to get open source. Yeah. That's where things are going. We know Hugging Face has an open source model, so there are a couple of open source models, which is absolutely amazing, bro. You can use this technology on your computers. And as Dave said, you can get somebody from your company, and in 3 months, can learn how to use this. Never ever was this possible in history of mankind. I mean, looking at how our society is going to look in 3 years from now on, I think we actually cannot comprehend what's going to happen. We cannot see it. The scale of change that is coming.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it was, with the introduction of like large language, and also interesting I did not know that OpenAI is maybe...
It's a rumor.
I'm
seeing some rumors, some forums.
But I could see how it makes sense, because you cannot stop this. Eventually, this will be open source, and maybe OpenAI looks at their current position and feel like, okay, we're currently like market leader, and if we maybe do not go open source, and in 1 year, for example, Llama 2 or whatever like kind of model will have surpassed OpenAI potentially. Who knows? But maybe like from the perspective of the position that they currently have, so like the only way that we can remain on top is by open source it, because that is definitely going to be the future. Because like the secret is out there. We know how these models work right now. And now it's just like putting in lots of data, training it, and now also making sure that we can run them at. Making them smaller, so more specialized, so we can run them on our machines without needing huge GPUs, reducing the costs.
I remember back in March when the Llama 1 was open sourced, that was a breach, like security breach or somehow, or at least that's the story.
Okay.
And I remember a team from Harvard, they just used Llama 1, retrained it using, I don't know, $300 infrastructure, GPUs, and they released a model that was like GPT-3.
In terms of performance.
Exactly, with $300. Which was absolutely
that is
shocking. From hundreds of millions of dollars to develop the technology a couple of years ago to $300 right now. So this is where things are going. Yeah,
that's really interesting. We're also right now like really figuring out like how to really configure your data sets
so
to make them as small as possible. And the thing is, data quality scales better than data quantity. So the idea of just throw whatever at it and we'll see what it will do is kind of, I believe, the initial approach that OpenAI did, just take everything. And now we're seeing this approach where you create curated data sets and also for specific use cases potentially. I think we'll see that in the future as well.
So, to remind our audience, data sets is like data that is specifically formatted, trained, labeled to use to train large language models. Our use case in Romania was, as I said earlier, we had a team of people that were annotating, labeling almost 100K Romanian documents. So this is how we made our model. So this is a question for you. Do you see the need for your clients to annotate on their specific data and to create data sets? Because in English, NLP language models for English are a lot. So there's a lot of data sets. But for Romanian, there's only like 10 of them. And the best one is the one that we annotate.
Okay.
Still the best one, like 1 year later. So do you see this need for your clients to get their data and train the large language specifically for their use case? Yeah,
so that would be like that's what you call fine-tuning models. So where you, and then the data set, you really provide inputs and outputs pairs. So if I say this, if I ask this, I expect this answer in return. And depends on the use case. Right now, and that's also coming from OpenAI themselves, they say it works better to provide context. So the whole notion of using the vector database, retrieving it, and then giving it to the model itself. I think they gave a really clever example illustration of this, which I found quite funny, is you can kind of like compare it to, on the one hand, the fine-tuning. You can compare that to a student that's preparing for a test.
Okay.
So it's basically going over all the examples, all the pairs, the data set, and it's trying to remember, okay, if I see this input, then this is the output. That's the student studying for the exam. Okay, and if it studies well, it sees a lot of examples, it can do quite well on the exam. But the student who has the cheat sheet at hand, who every time that he has to create an answer, can pull from the database and has the actual data, the context, and then provides the answer, that will always outperform the student that has to learn everything on top of that. So
okay, it makes sense.
to answer that question, I think there are definitely good use cases for fine-tuning. I have not looked into it that much yet because I haven't had the need to do so, but likely for specific use cases, it could make sense where you fine-tune the model.
During the weekend, I had this use case. So one of the consultants that we work with asked us, okay, guys, we need for your companies, we really need to know for the last 9 years, which of your transactions were like one-time transactions and which were from the beginning and which were subscriptions, like recurring revenue.
Yeah.
So we have a database of almost 30K invoices. So I had an Excel with this data, like company that bought, the value, how much did it bought, and when did it bought. So, and I had this for 9 years. So using only this information, I could not understand which were from the beginning one-time transaction and recurring. Like if you look from the overview, basically you say, okay, in each year, if I have only one transaction, that's gonna be forever one-time acquisition. But it's not like that, because we had clients that were like recurring clients, but only bought once.
Okay.
So that was, how do I solve this?
Yeah.
And then I look on my database and I said, okay, I also have the products that I sold. And I have like there were like 70K products. I had a list with 70K products for the last 9 years. And I went to ChatGPT, to Code Interpreter, and I said, look, I have 70K products. Okay, each invoice has multiple products. Yeah. I want you to analyze these products and decide which one was one-time transaction and which is most probably to be a recurring transaction. Yeah. And the thing that happened, which was like really shocking to me, the model said, the ChatGPT said, look, I cannot understand this. Okay, let's train. Let's do a machine learning model. Oh, and I said, how am I gonna do this? And he said, look, I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna look into all 70Ks, and I'm gonna give you an Excel, and I'm gonna give you a column that you say one time or recurring. And I'll give you an example like this. So he gave me 100 examples. Yeah. I downloaded the Excel. I just click. I said, this is one time, this is not. This is one time, this is not. Yeah. He took that example, he retrained the model, and he said, let's advance, because I have like 98% accuracy. This cannot be good. I'll give you another example. Okay, another 100 items, products. Yeah. And again, I've done that. And like after 2 or 3 iterations, he actually created a machine learning model.
Wow.
Which was like, what the fuck, man? I can't believe that. So after 2 or 3 iterations, his accuracy was 100%.
Whoa.
So 1 hour later, he gave me an Excel and his accuracy for one-time transaction. And I look at it and we're like 100% real.
Whoa.
This is absolutely incredible.
That is really an amazing use case.
I have it on ChatGPT, and if you guys want it, I can give you the link with. You
still have the full document of the conversation.
I have the entire conversation.
I would love to have a look at it, because I experiment with Code Interpreter as well, but I haven't run into the scenario where it really is making suggestions like that. Like here, okay, here's what you should do, annotate it, and then I have more information.
He gave me the output. Yeah. He gave me back an Excel from my data. I put it. I work on it and I upload it back. And then he trained a machine learning model. What?
That is really interesting, and also how we can see how we are going to like work together with AI.
With AI.
Like I think this is a great example of not just like putting everything off to artificial intelligence. They like do it for me, but interacting with it, and
And I'm not a data scientist, because as I've said many times, if you know what algorithm you use, or if you know what to ask specifically, the results are going to be faster and better. Yeah. But in the end, I had 100% accuracy in that 100 examples.
It was 70K data.
70K products. 70K, 70,000.
But did you also manage to figure out that could be something to look into? Maybe, for example, like depending on what model it used and some feature importance, like what were the specifics that the model used to decide whether it was a recurring transaction, or you don't know that?
I don't know, and I don't care. To be honest,
It's true.
I had a use case, I had an objective, and it solved my problem really fast. And then using the data, I start asking him to make all kind of analysis. You know, he gave me for each year how many one time, how many subscription, how many was my churn, my actual churn, which is really hard to find in a SaaS model, especially if in the beginning you had no idea that you need this data, because this is my problem. I have unstructured data, all of it, but nobody thought about it like 9 years ago to structure it in a way that is going to be really, really easy to analyze it. You know the problem, basic standard problem. So I went from unstructured to structured using machine learning. Like, what the hell? Yeah, and I had Leo, which was one of my colleagues from IT department, with me on chat, and we were talking about it, and he was trying to find me all kind of works around, you know, to get the data. And then, like half an hour later, I said, never mind, I solved it with machine learning.
I fixed it.
I fixed it out. And he's like, what?
How did you do that?
Half an hour, you know. Again, I'm actually still learning what the hell machine learning is as a word.
Yeah, as a word.
As a word.
But you're doing
What's the meaning behind it, you know? But it's very, you know, never mind, Leo. I solved it with machine learning.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. Absolutely amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is Llama Doi.
Yeah. So this is just to show you, you can actually apply to download the model here. Also something which I have yet to look into. But let's see. I think we're kind of wrapping up what I had planned for this session. So maybe quick summary of everything that we've just discussed. It's really the fundamentals of building apps with large language models. First, like the individual components that you need that make up these applications, and then how LangChain makes this really easy and efficient to piece it together and actually make it work. We saw that in the code example that I provided. And then also on the data privacy security aspect, that right now for our clients, we work with Microsoft Azure. But you could also look into open source models, which are getting better every month as well. OpenAI, from our experiments, is still like the best one yet, but everything's getting better. And this is really the stack that we're using right now at like the core, at like the AI level, to create these applications. And I think that's a good general introduction for now to see how we can build upon this and also integrate it with some front-end applications, for example, where we actually, and the data sources, of course, where we actually turn it into something that companies can use.
Yeah, I have a small announcement in Romania for people that didn't understand anything so far. Deci, dragii mei, dacă ne-ați urmărit în ultimele 2 ore și nu ați înțeles nimic, ideea este în felul următor. Identificați în companie acea persoană care are un pic de competențe cu Excel, știe să posteze pe Facebook, înțelege un pic de tehnologie, nu foarte mult, și în 3 luni de zile acea persoană se poate trainui, poate învăța, să ajungă să aibă competențele necesare, să înțeleagă, să implementeze, să integreze tot ceea ce am discutat astăzi împreună cu Dave. Urmărim canalul lui Dave urmărim și Valurile Inteligenței Artificiale, întreg tot acest conținut pe care îl punem la dispoziție, pentru că este o rampă de lansare foarte puternică. So, back to English. Yeah, basically I just told the people that, I don't know, didn't understand anything, that all they need to do is find one person in their company, train them for 3 months, and they can have all this integrated in their companies. Okay, Cornelia, do we have questions? Technical question. I'm really curious.
Ooh.
I was coding with one of the colleagues that we start Termene.ro, and we are coding on a big screen in our apartment.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend came into the apartment and said, "What are you doing here? It's only commas and commas. You're wasting your days. You're not doing anything." She didn't understand programming at all. So today we had a screen with commas and words. So let's see the questions.
Sure.
Okay. First question. What LMS did you use to create the Data Alchemy website? It looks great.
Perfect.
Yeah,
so the main, we have, because we have 2 things going on. We have, let's see, just to make sure, because it could refer to our main website or to the community.
The community.
Yeah, the community. This is hosted on School. So did not build it
you
myself.
showed us earlier the education when you have all the course or the basic fundamentals.
Over here. So that was this.
Okay.
So this is all in school, which is an excellent...
another platform.
Yeah, it's a platform. Yeah, that you can use to host communities.
Okay, thank you. And another one. Would you create a teaching assistant using LangChain? I've got some ideas. You could vectorize your video content in order for the assistant to retrieve your educational info. Also, the assistant should not give you a direct answer when you have a problem, but rather act like a teacher and give you clues. These are my ideas, but how could you approach this?
Sure. So that is a really good use case that you could use LangChain for. So you could have all your educational resources that you would use as a teacher, for example. So this could be books, homework assignments, all kinds of things. And then you could create a simple chat application where you could instruct the teaching assistant to either answer questions about the material. So that would be really like similar to how you would ask your own teacher. Like, hey, how does this work? Hey, how can we use that? Can I get some more clarification on that? So you could use it like that. Or you could use it, for example, to try and come up with some example assignments to really improve studying. So it's not just like asking questions, getting the answer back, but really just maybe start with a question first. Like, hey, do you know how this? So kind of like an interactive assignment where it's not just a blank piece of paper where you have to go line by line and fill everything in. But the chat just provides you with a question, and then you have to answer, and then it will point you into the right direction, saying like, hey, that's not entirely correct. Have you looked into this? Or maybe something, think about this, and then you could, in a conversational way, go about it.
Some interactivity, let's say, to be more pleasant and easier to understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we create a chat like that so we can train this person in less than 3 months?
So to train someone to build an application like this?
Yeah, because we talk about you can start from zero, and in 3 months can we build an AI to help people do that?
Definitely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then again, it really depends on the educational resources that you have available, and also how you instructed what you wanted to help with. Like setting up the basics. It's pretty really easy. Like I can do that in a day to set up the application where you can just ask questions about the educational content. But then it's about really clever design of the. So what do you want to use it for? What does the assistant have to do? What can it help with? That is really the creative thinking about it.
Okay. Okay. The last question from our app. Do you need to use the OpenAI embedding API or other paid service? Or is the same using an open source model or API? Can you tell us what is the best open source option?
At the top of my head, I don't know what the best open source is right now because I've mostly looked into just using OpenAIs, but you can definitely use the open source ones. And also with LangChain, you just, like I said, you swap them out. But we can have a look at LangChain embeddings. Just see, for example, text embedding
So the question
models.
is related to transforming text to vectors because you have to use a dedicated software to do that.
Yeah.
Like
so
OpenAI.
Exactly. Here you can see embeddings class is designed for interacting with text embeddings. There are lots of embedding model providers, so OpenAI, Cohere, Hugging Face. So probably Hugging Face could be open source. Not sure about that one.
No, Hugging Face is open source.
Yeah. So also the embedding model. Not sure, but you can definitely look into that. And in LangChain, it's as easy as swapping a variable, and then you use a different embedding.
Thank you.
Any more questions? That's it with the questions. Okay, so guys, very technical session today. We have 2 more coming. So 2 more days with Dave. We are here in Luba, Mamaia. Until 24th of August, you guys are going to find us here. All the sessions are available on our platform, termene.ro, and on mobile, and on our webpage. This session is going to be online today until tomorrow morning. Maybe you can still find it, and after that, you are going to find it on our web app. Another thanks to our partners, Nuba. This is the place where we find ourselves today, and it's really nice. And I like the music on the background right now. really chilling. Yeah. Yes. And Alesi, which is our housing partner. I don't know how my English today. As I said, I need an avatar. We see tomorrow again, 9:30. Live, and also if you guys come in here, we wait for you. This week we are going to end with Răzvan Căzănescu on the 10th of August, and then a little break until Monday when we start again. Thank you very much for another session of AI. The good thing is that my English is going to get better. Because I haven't done conversation in English for many years now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. See you tomorrow, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks. Very technical.